Welcome back to another video. So this will be a follow-up for the fillet feature problem. And as you can see, we have a video over here from Workbench Stuff regarding the same part. And this is created within CATIA V5R21. And we see that within this version, this will work without any problem. So there are two methods over here in order to create that. Initially, we have those cylinders, and afterwards we have that other part modeled. Now, the fillet feature will work without any problems within this version, but let's take a look over here. I have the newer CATIA version over here, and this is that part, which was created in R. And we see the edge fillet over here. So this is edge fillet 2. I can double click this feature, and as you can see, I will see those edges being selected. And what is really weird is that I can change the value. For example, I can change this to 7 and it will work. So this is editable. I can swap it to different radius over here. It will update and we have the geometry without any problem. But if for some reason, if I will delete this, so I will select it, I will delete it. And now if I will try to reapply that, so again, this is the edge fillet definition. If I try to apply this with 5, we're going to see that CATIA will give me an update error. So for part 1, part body, edge fillet, in this case, will be edge fillet 3, will have this operation that cannot be performed. And even if I will try to add a variable fillet, let's say that I want it to be 2 millimeters over here onto those two sides, again, we're going to have the same problem. But what is really odd is that chamfer will work. So chamfer applied on the same edges. This is on that part which was created on CATIA V5R21. As you can see, chamfer will work without any problem. But again, if I will try to apply the fillet, this will not work, so I will go with the constant of 5. Propagation, in this case, there's nothing to propagate, so I will just leave this to tangency. And if I will hit OK, we're gonna see that it will not work. So if I want to keep various edges, we see over here within edges to keep, I can have this created, but again, this will add that additional wireframe geometry over here. As we can see it with edges to keep, if I will add those, CATIA for some reason will split this within these surfaces over here. One on the top and one on the bottom. Now, the same problem applies for files created within CATIA V5 R2017, as I have over here. So we have the seam line added over there. Again, if I will try to apply the fillet, not on a face, I want to apply it directly on the edge. We're gonna see with a radius of 5, with the same properties, just like the other file, this will not work. And we have that seam line added over there, but if I will say that I want to keep the following edges, I will hit apply. Again, this will work, but we're gonna have that additional geometry added over here. Now, for the model that will have this seam line added to the sides, this will not have any problem, so this will work with the default one, as we can see it over here. And this is really weird, and let me just close this part, and I will have that reopen, since this had the fillet that worked. So as we can see, again, this is the model from R21, I can change it. And over here, it's not mandatory that I will select this edge to keep, but if I will also do the following selection, let's take a look at the output. Again, CATIA will add those additional faces. So this is something that shouldn't be added over here. This is why if I will press Ctrl Z, the initial fillet didn't have those, and it's not mandatory to have those added. And the same problem occurs within the newer version. So this is the model that I created directly within 3DEXPERIENCE, and we have this odd shape. But if I will import the same CATIA file, so this is the R21, I will have this imported. We're gonna see the model loaded now within 3DEXPERIENCE, and the same, just like within my version of CATIA V5, I can change the H-fillet value, so the radius, let's say 7, it will work. We see over here edges to keep, so the same functionality just like within CATIA V5. I can add those, I can click OK, and it will split that geometry over here. So if I will undo this, if I will select now the edge fillet, and let's just suppress this, so I will deactivate it. And if I will create a new fillet within 3DEXPERIENCE, which will be over here, edge fillet, radius of 5, I want this to be constant on those two edges. I will click OK. So the same problem, just like within CATIA V5 2017, we see the same error over here. And again, if I will go with edges to keep, and I want those to be kept, I can select those and they will work. But it doesn't make any sense why CATIA will split the geometry over here within the newer versions. So if I will reactivate the older feature, which was added within CATIA V5 R21, this will work without any problem. And more than that, this will still be editable. And this is really weird. And if I will delete that, again, if I will apply a chamfer, just like within CATIA V5, this will work. This problem only appears when dealing with fillets over here. As you can see, like we have over here, if I will deactivate this, and if I will apply it now as a chamfer, we're gonna see how that will be applied. With a length of 5, it will work. And what is even odder is that if I will define this to be only within this pocket, so I want to define this as a work object, only have one cut, so not the one underneath, over here this will work. So normal fillet, radius of 5, this will work. And as soon as I will apply the second pocket over here, this will no longer work. So if I will define this within work object, we see it being updated. And if I will do a local update, it will work with that cut applied, but now CATIA will not allow me to apply the second one over here on the bottom. Well, in this case, we see that within 3DEXPERIENCE, it will allow me, but we see how that mesh will be changed over here. Even though visually this is no longer that cylinder, if I will save this as a step file, and I will move that within CATIA V5, it will actually work, but we see that it will be this, let's say, wieldy shape over here. So let me just export this as a step file, and we see that the command line, please save. Okay, so initially I need to save this so that I can export it. Export, I want this to be a step file. Step file, I want this to be called fillet, and I don't want it to be directly on the desktop. So fillet 1, hit save. We have that exported, and I will now drag and drop that over here. So on the desktop, this should be fillet. This is the step model from 3DEXPERIENCE, and we see that it will look like this. So without any problem, it will just have this additional segment on the bottom cut, not on the top. So again, this is why this is really odd. If I will go, for example, within this part, if I will delete the fillet, I will define this within the work object. Again, I can apply the top one, just like within 3DEXPERIENCE. If I will also define the second cut on the bottom and update this, that will remain. But now, over here within CATIA V5 2017, this bottom face can no longer be added. And we see a different update error. It says topological operator, sewing operation ambiguity, cannot decide whether a face must be kept or removed. Check the geometry. And again, if I will say that I want to check that, it will work, but the geometry will no longer be the same. So we have this additional face over here. So even though if I will go like this, it will not be visible. Keep in mind that the new surface has been added over here and the part will no longer have the same topology. Even though it looks the same, and if you're going to measure it, we're going to have that radius of 5, but it will have a different structure. And let's take a look over here within this one. So this is the fillet feature created within R21. If I will deactivate this, and I will go after the first pocket, defining work object, I will try to apply the fillet over here, radius of 5, again it will work. If I will add the bottom section, we see it over here, and if I want to apply it over here, again the same problem, and again if I will use that keep edge, it will work. But it will have that additional geometry. Okay, so this was an overview regarding the fillet feature. So I think that somewhere along the line with some updates, the fillet feature has some bugs, and this is why I consider this video to be important, because we see within the newer version of CATIA 3D Experience how weirdly that fillet will be defined over here. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this kind of content. Let me know in the comment section what is your version of CATIA, because I see that the vast majority are using older versions. And also, if you also tried this part, and if you also encountered those problems. Okay, so that's it. Thanks for watching.